I'm standing near the intersection of Yorktown and Main Street, and uphill from this marker is one of the city's not just most hidden parks, but also one of its most historic. I'll show it to you in just a minute. I'm Chris Epting. I'm a writer and a storyteller, the author of several books and many articles about Huntington Beach. And what I like best is uncovering history that you may not be familiar with. This is Hidden Huntington Beach. So when you find that little hidden staircase just off of Yorktown, you come up here, you will discover a little Eden of sorts. It's a beautiful little park, very hidden, very private, but also very historic. This is the exact site of the Robert Northam Ranch, and Diamond Bob, as they called him back in the 1800s, late 1800s, was a high-spending, flamboyant landowner who came up here, purchased almost 2,000 acres to raise cattle, and his mansion is right where I am standing right now. In fact, these palm trees are all original. They were brought here when he built his home. After the turn of the century, in the early 1900s, eventually he sold his property. It was owned by the Huntington Beach Company, who of course were very prominent, still are prominent in Huntington Beach. And in 2000, the year 2000, the home mysteriously burned down, which is really a shame because at that point preservationists were working with it to try and take the house over, perhaps create a museum. It was one of the oldest houses in Huntington Beach. No one really knows what happened. Some thought that it was arson, but it happened right up here. Thankfully, though, this park was preserved. If you look behind me, that kiosk right there, those bricks were actually salvaged from the fire, and those are actual pieces of the old Northam Ranch. Now, again, if you come up here, it's a beautiful breeze, it's very elevated up here, it's a beautiful park, but the good news is, in addition to having this great park, there is still one remaining piece of the ranch. I think it's my single favorite historic structure in Huntington Beach. It was saved thanks to the efforts of a person I'm going to meet in a moment, and you're going to meet as well, so come with me. Connie Mandick is a longtime Huntington Beach resident. Her husband's family business, Mandick Motors, has been around since the 1930s. Connie herself is currently a Huntington Beach Planning Commissioner, and she's been very involved in the city for many years with many different organizations. Back in the late 1970s, she helped lead the charge on a very important historic preservation project. So Connie, I was just up there on the hill talking about something that's been saved down here, but where we're standing here at Seacliff Office Park, it didn't always look like this with the water and the palm trees. You remember it entirely differently back in the 60s, right? What was it like here right where we're standing back then?
Totally paradise. It was just like an oasis in the middle of the city.
It was still part of the ranch,
It was
right?
the old Huntington Beach Ranch, preserved. And even back then, people didn't really know a lot about it. That it was just kind of left here when the oil production went down. Then they didn't need the feed and all the animals and so forth. So the ranch was given to a retired Huntington Beach Company employee, and he ran it as a horse ranch, which I came here in 1965 and boarded my horse here.
Right here?
Right here. And all the old barns were here. I mean, it was absolutely amazing. A dairy barn, a mare barn, a cattle barn.
And that's not that long ago.
It's not.
We're not talking, I mean, it was here obviously in the 20s and 30s, but as late as the 70s,
Yes.
those things were all right here. The playhouse was here as well, right?
Right.
What was that like?
It was really a cool structure. It was a big barn, and they had brought in rows of velvet seats, or big rows of velvet seats, just like a really high-class theater, and people just absolutely loved it.
All right, so in the late 1970s, they're going to begin developing where we are to put up the corporate park that's here.
Right.
And there's a structure that you decide you want to try and protect and save.
Right.
Talk about that story, because what you were able to accomplish, what is still here right now, I think is really impressive. And again, one of my absolute, if not my favorite historic structure in Huntington Beach.
Mine too.
Tell me about it.
So back then, they had done a negative declaration for this whole property. And it didn't address the animals that were here. I mean, this was a big piece of property. It didn't address the animals. It didn't address the structures. It did just like a cursory overview that said there was sort of nothing here of any interest. No history, no nothing. So of course, I realized the history of, this was our oil history here. And so went to some city council meetings, and I was on the environmental board at the time, and they got involved, and we got some publicity, and the council sort of started taking notice. And so anyway, at that point, then still the city in general wasn't aware of this piece of property. So now other citizens are, wait, what is this? Sounds like it's worth saving. So anyway, then eventually we got the city to talk to the Huntington Beach Company, and through a lot of negotiations, different people, they got the Huntington Beach Company to agree to basically redesign their project and build it around the silo.
And the silo we're talking about is right behind us right now.
Yes.
This is a magnificent, what is it, 60 some odd feet tall.
Yes.
Goes back to the mid-1930s, part of the original ranch that was here.
Right.
And thanks to your efforts, in large part, the silo, it was a grain silo, right?
Right,
I was
for
reading
corn.
for corn, it would feed the pigs and other animals that were here, but it's still here thanks to you and some people that got behind you, right?
Right, absolutely. The environmental board got involved in a big way, and kind of at the end of it, we gave an award to the Huntington Beach Company for preserving the silos. And but it was a battle at one point.
That's what I read, and it's amazing too, because for a while there was a tile marker there that commemorated what you went through, and that tile was actually created by the woman that did the tiles at the old Seacliff Village, right?
Exactly.
The murals for the birds, which is, I think, a really nice tie-in.
Yes.
That Barbara's artwork was represented
Right.
here as well.
And one of the residents of the silos that everybody that was here, they were kind of their pets. There were barn owls that nested in the
Up top.
of the silo. And so part of the plaque showed the barn owl. And a lot of the publicity was some people give a hoot, and hopefully they'll come back, and they're going to remain a part of Huntington Beach. So
well, it looks like the roof needs a little work.
It
so
does.
we should maybe get together and figure out how to get that done to help that roof, because the roof looks original.
It
and
does.
certainly needs some help. What does it feel like for you right now to turn around and see that silo and know that back in the 1970s it was your efforts in large part that are responsible for it being here? It's got to feel good.
Well, you never do anything alone. So it was a small part my effort and a lot of other people getting on board. And our planning director, Jim Palin, helped, and Margaret Carlberg and Linda Moon and Erwin Haydock. But anyway, it's an awesome feeling. It gives me shivers still when I come back here and see it, because it's such a great structure.
Well, it is, and it's so incongruous. I remember the first time I saw it, and you're back here. And again, this very beautifully landscaped area,
Right.
With this lagoon, and then boom, here's this grain silo. And again, if you know anything about the old Northam Ranch, you have to assume there's some connection to the fact that this was all part of the ranch.
Right.
But the fact that it's still here today in 2020, I think is just stunning. And if you go up and sort of knock on it, this thing is built to last. I mean,
It's
this
cement.
is a no-nonsense structure.
Yes, it's heavy duty.
So it's going to be there for a while. But no, I think it's amazing, and it's really a chance to remember. I always feel like if you have one thing saved, that allows your mind then to fill in all the other blanks. If that wasn't there, it would be really hard.
Right.
But you were mentioning to me earlier that the eucalyptus trees are original. That are here.
These two eucalyptus trees are the original eucalyptus trees that are in all the pictures and everything of the silos.
So you would have ridden your horses like right here, and those
Absolutely.
trees would have been there.
Yep, and that was a big mare pasture there, and a big barn over here that had hay, and it was just one big barns, and chickens, and what a great place for a whole generation of girls to grow up, because they played in those barns.
It was just for girls.
It was pretty much just for girls, yes. So they grew up, having slumber parties in those big barns and finding chicken eggs, and it was really an amazing.
Before I came down, I was up on the hill talking about the fire in 2000 that claimed that historic house up there. You were in the house.
Yes.
What was it like? I mean, how would you describe that to people who never had a chance to visit it?
It was a great house. It had a carriage drive, so it was elegantly, you drove up there and around the hill, and the inside was beautiful woodwork and tile, like an Art Deco tile around the fireplaces and things. It was very, very special.
And weren't you part of the group that had been sort of in talks to protect and preserve it before the fire?
Yes, it was kind of all part of this, because it was all there at that point. So there was some talk about preserving it for a park and donating that to the city to be used for meetings and things. But anyway, it never came about.
It had to be devastating if that fire.
Oh, terrible.
With the work a lot of you put in, because I've read about just how serious you all were about doing something with that property. To have it all vanish like that in one night just had to be.
And that house, it was, if you were somebody in Huntington, the key ticket was to get invited to the Christmas party at that house.
Really?
Yeah.
Were you ever invited?
A couple times. I think when my husband was on council, we got invited a few times.
And how were those nights?
Oh my gosh, great. It was all catered, and the who's who was up there, and just everybody's so happy to be there.
Well, that site up there, it's funny. You go up there today, and it really is this beautiful park with always a lovely wind up there, nice gentle breeze. But you think about the power players that were up there and the amount of control over this city on that spot. It's also pretty interesting as well. And I know that city council, right, occasionally, isn't it true, like during meetings, breaks in meetings, they would sometimes come over to the house to sort of get a read on
get their instructions,
what the power players wanted in there. I mean, it really was part of the political backdrop of the city as well.
That's right. That's right.
Well, I just want to say, in wrapping up, to have you right here with this structure behind you and know your role in helping to protect it and preserve it. Thank you so much.
A small role, but
a small role, but I think you're making it seem smaller than it was. But for at least being one of the voices that spoke out and helped lead the charge. I know that can be tough, but you did it. It's here. If you want to see a real living, breathing piece of Huntington history, I would come to this this office park here, take the trail back, look at this. I mean, the setting is really beautiful.
It is.
But take in the old trees, take in the silo, and just think about what it was like when horses and pigs and cows and chickens all roamed here not that long
1,400
ago.
acres.
1,400 acres.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much, Connie.
Thank you very much for bringing attention to it, too, because it needs some help in the future.